So Peter, one of the many conversations I love with you is your insights onto the digital intrusion of classic analog device.
Sure.
Right? And I mean, you've been leading the way on this and really holding the thoughtful perspective of whether it's patient monitoring, data in clinical trials, and other tails that wag the dog in where we're going.
Sure.
And before the cameras were rolling, we were chatting about what's the likelihood in the near term, your opinion, on the use of digital real world evidence, even digital twins, on the FDA going, that sounds like a good deal, let's move forward with it. And what has to happen in order for that to go?
Usually with the FDA, a lot of things, and validation is probably the most important thing. I have to say that the Digital Center for Excellence at the FDA, which I'm able to participate a little bit in, is run by some new folks, Troy in particular, and he comes from a big business, a process-based effort, actually was involved in Cerner for quite a bit. So I think we have some really good people that are understanding the power of digital data, digital twins, avatars. But you know, I stopped many years ago predicting the FDA, and you say I've been leading this. I've more been dragged into it because I think it's a necessary cousin of what we all do. I think, Joe, the one issue that we have to worry about, in addition to the bullet points that people are bringing up with respect to data leakage, hallucinations, deep fakes, and those are all very valid. But what has happened in this digital craze, and it's not to fault anybody, but training sets, which are the core to making predictive processes or generative processes, so difference between predictive AI and generative AI, have been basically not revealed. Where the data comes from. A couple examples. The recommendations for a 19-year-old, that has a UTI, and you can go ahead and look at GPT-4 or ChatGPT, and you'll get, from fluoroquinones to macrodantin. However, the training set was derived from folks that weren't pregnant. You shouldn't use fluoroquinones, and were on birth control, which you shouldn't use macrodantins. So, because the training set was not enriched with those exceptions, it gives you results that are erroneous. Another example is Epic comes out with a layer where you can predict sepsis in your hospital. Nobody knows where the training sets come from, and they found out through post-rigorous trials that it had a predictive power of flipping a coin. So we have to be careful here and try to understand what the training sets are made up of. Because remember, a training set that works in Indiana may not work in Chennai, India, because you've got epigenetics, you've got all sorts of things that are, so we need to be transparent there. And the FDA, to come back to that, will be focused on what that training set is, what it consists of, what the variance is, what the out of bounds potential is. Now the good thing in healthcare is that we do have built-in, barriers, and that's the healthcare providers. So you might suggest a stochastic, heuristic hierarchy of what I should do for the folks that are in front of me, the patients that are in front of me, but I still have to make the decision. And my education and experience and all the people here is important to have that be overlaid, that augmentation of my intelligence be appreciated, and not that I'm going to make, or that computer is going to make a decision.
So I want to unpack that for a second. So there's a difference between advisement and when it comes to data, advisement, and then leaving the hands of the decision in the organic decision maker.
Yeah.
Yet, when you look at AI, Peter, AI is a non-organic decision maker. Never before have we had a mechanism in place where the data we empower the data to make the decision. We've never had that in the history of humankind. And now we're there. And to your point, luckily the FDA, if you can't unpack the black box, we're not going to approve the black box.
You bet.
And that is for sure. But my concern is this. I remember when I first used Waze, and I got on 95, and it said, no, get off 95, take the turnpike. I'm like, no. And I sat in traffic for 45 minutes. And then I tried to outthink Waze again. I was like, I should have listened in the first place. Now Waze comes on, I don't question it any longer.
No.
And so, with the burden of work on the providers and the clinicians, when do we become somewhat numb to decision making as we go down range?
It's sort of a classic Mobileye story, right? The first time you hit in your car, and I have a 1982 car, so I'm not one of those, but you hit parallel park, you look back to check it. After about 8 times, you push it and you stay on your phone until it's parked, right? The one thing that is key here that I'm not sure gets appreciated is that, look, there's a large language model that comes out every other day where I live in Silicon Valley. These are generic neural network processes that have trillions of parameters. But that doesn't make it tunable for cardiology. So it has to be tuned, okay? So the next step is you tune those generic processes for cardiologic processes. How many articles per month fall in the category of TLDR, which is too long, didn't read, for all of us practitioners? There's 7,000 articles per month for primary care. Nobody's read all those, you can't consume. So that second phase of fine tuning goes out and sequesters for endpoint driven processes, redefines those, tries to validate those. But the third and most important part of coming up with a training set is your opinion about what I used or what I didn't use. That then circles back, and that clinical open AI process is what refines it. And still, at the end, it's a suggestion.
It's an advisement.
It's an advisement. So people have to understand that this is actually a process that takes place, and the FDA, going back to your initial questions, will begin to uncover that, and we have to have ways to be transparent and explain it, especially in medicine. Your Mobileye doesn't need to explain it to you anymore. These cars that are running around San Francisco with nobody in them are all completely automated and making their own decision. There's nobody in them to overdrive them anymore, but that's where we are. We're a little bit behind that, but that's what's important to feed back to these training sets. And that's, and I get excited about that because imagine a 30-year-old, imagine me when I graduated, not at 30, because I did some other things for a while, I got distracted. But at 38, when I did graduate in cardiology, I'm going to see a complex patient. I don't have the experience that I've learned, that I've trained myself in. So I call, one of the famous doctors at Stanford, and there's many of them that have a lot of experience, but they're out to lunch. Today, I can get that match the patient that's in front of me, a hierarchy. And that standardizes a process that we're really inefficient about in the United States and other places. So,
and it accelerates the learning curve too, dramatically. The competency curve.
Competency curve, yes indeed. And maybe, God forbid, it increases the empathy curve too. I might be able to spend a little bit more time. I learned this during the pandemic. I would talk to people at home and I would ask them to bring their family on the couch. I thought I did a better job. It's probably in my head, but I heard from some that I did. And I think this is going to give us, like you say, a competency quickly, efficiently, in a standardized manner, and save some time for compassion.
Care, yeah. Well, as you sit here at TCT 2024, Peter, this is probably your 30th, 35th TCT. I was talking to Rick Jeffrey on the other day, and he said it was in the basement across the street in 1991 or something like that when we were all running around as youngsters in this. But what are you most hopeful for over the next few years in this category?
So I think it's going to change, it's going to morph, and I think some of the new technologies that are being combined with our episodic accelerations that we always witness at TCT, how we're getting better when people that now have an illness come to us and engage us, whether they have a pulmonary embolus, whether they have an MI, or whether they have kidney disease. They engage us. And we have technologies everywhere that can take and do demonstratively better every single year with those episodes. What's changing is now we're accumulating data that we can extract insights from that can not only be companioned with those episodes, but can be longitudinally appreciated and provide for the continuity of care between those episodes, which we haven't done a great job with. The other thing that brings to order is the fact we might be able to go back on the curve with some of these new technologies you see that are point of care technologies, point of care ultrasound. We've got credit cards now you can put on your chest and get a 12 lead read by a cardiologist in the cloud. We have smart stethoscopes. These are point of cares that we can either triage them efficiently to a big medical center, or we can take care of them or maybe prevent them. Desmond Tutu once said in 1986 that we'll still pull people out of the rivers, but maybe we ought to go upstream and see while they're falling
in the rivers.
So
love that.
I get excited by the leverage and amplification the data has to not only our episodes, but our continuity of care. And in a society that spends so much on healthcare, and yet we live less long than most OECD countries, and the number one cause of patient bankruptcy is healthcare, we do need to try to bend curves in a more effective way. And I think the combination of some of the drugs and data, devices and data, and the data alone, that triangle is going to improve healthcare, and I think that's kind of why we're all here.
Well, I love the optimistic perspective on things as always, Peter. Thank you, my friend.
Betcha. Thank you.
I'm Joe Mullings from the floor of TCT 2024. Be well. That was awesome.
I thought you wanted to talk about Israel.
I didn't know if you wanted to. I'm open. I'm always open to talking about Israel. I'm always open.
I take a non-Jewish, because I'm not Jewish,
Yeah.
stance and care about the kids that are going to be the next generation.
Yes.
And so I can do that in articles, and I've been doing it, and I've been doing it in some podcasts, because I think it's important for our folks in the United States. What did Walt Whitman say? You can only have judgment if it's preceded by knowledge and curiosity. I think there's a lot of folks that makes decisions about what should be done over there, whether it be Gaza, whether it be, Hezbollah, but they don't try to understand the process.
That's right.
And I've been exquisitely honored by the fact that I've gone to Israel probably more than most Jewish people have, 125, 130 times, and over the last 20 years. And I've seen things, have friends, culture, and has observed things, primarily because I'm not Arab, I'm not Israeli, I'm not Jewish.
You're nonpartisan for the most part.
I'm nonpartisan. And if a little bit of extra work over there teaching the kids can potentially be noticed by people that say, yeah, Fitz isn't Jewish, he's over there doing something, maybe we ought to pay attention to what he's doing. A little bit. I mean, these are tiny, tiny baby steps. But Joe, as you know, I've been over there for many, many, many years, and I feel like rather than bringing the CathWorks and the V-Waves and all those beautiful companies that were started in Israel to the market, I feel like we need to put an arrowhead on both sides of the line. So that's why I'm doing it. And my partner, Michal, is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And, I just feel like, at my age, I got to do some things like that are, meaningful.
Yeah, well, I think you've checked the boxes on many sides of the line on that one, but I agree with you, Peter. I think when people have an opinion over here about what should be done, those who are
Adamant opinion,
that's where I was going. Those who have the strongest opinion say, have you ever been to Israel? Have you ever had a lunch with an Arab and a Jew together. Have you ever listened to all their stories before? Do you understand the culprits behind the current activities going on and what their intentions are? And no, they just want to dye their hair purple and be anti, right? And I just don't get it. And I'm with
And
you.
anti-anything. I'm not, yeah.
There's no reason to be anti anything. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, no, so it's,
So-
so maybe we'll take it offline at some point if you want to do it, but it's not from a political perspective, it's from a people
Humanity
perspective.
yeah.
And I think that's important to get some of those messages out, and you have a conduit to do that, so but you have to decide ultimately.
Yeah, well, no, I do want to do it, and I think what I'd like to do is we should set up time. I'd like to, because I'm working closely with Chaim and Rafi and all the others, but I want almost, Peter, people like you and I who are not Jewish or Arabs,
But have been there.
but have been there, understand that, and not even take a position, but try and position the discussion
Yeah.
around awareness,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Yeah.
a beautiful. I'll be glad to interview you if you don't mind.
That'd be fun.
You have a vocabulary that is simple but descriptive, and I like that. I think it's important. Communication is, as you know, not the biggest words. It's the most effective ones.
The ones I always tell my people when I write, I'm horrible with grammar, but I feel like I'm a reasonably good communicator,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That's
and I
all.
got ChatGPT now for
Yeah,
the
that's
grammar
right.
part.
Well, thanks as always, Peter.
Betcha, my friend.
Thanks, man.
And